What is the most messed up thing your parents have done to you? When I was 14, my parents called me into the living room one quiet Sunday afternoon. The TV was off, the curtains half drawn, and they were sitting on opposite sides of the couch, not looking at each other. I could feel something was wrong before anyone said a word. Dad spoke first, his voice low and tired. Your mother and I were separating. The words hit like a punch to the chest, but what came next broke me completely. Mom added softly, avoiding my eyes. We want you to decide who you want to live with. For a moment, I thought it was a joke. How could they make me choose? I looked from one face to the other, two people I loved more than anything, and all I could say was, I don't want to pick. But they didn't take it back. They just sat there waiting. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying memories, Dad teaching me how to ride a bike, Mom staying up with me when I was sick, our family road trips with bad singing and melted ice cream. Every thought felt like a knife, because no matter what I chose, I'd be cutting one of them out. In the days that followed, they both started campaigning. Dad suddenly acted like my best friend, taking me to movies, buying pizza, asking about my school projects. He'd smile and say, you know, you'll have your own room at my new place. No rules about bedtime. Mom went the opposite way. She cried a lot. She'd say things like, if you leave, I don't know what I'll do without you. It felt like every conversation was a test, and I was always failing. One night, I heard them arguing through the wall, voices raised, my name thrown around like a weapon. You're trying to bribe her, Mom shouted. At least I'm not guilt-tripping her, Dad shot back. I pulled my blanket over my head and wished I could disappear. A few days later, Mom came into my room. Her eyes were red. She sat on the edge of my bed and said, if you choose him, I'll understand, but I don't think I could stay here without you. That line haunted me. It felt like a threat wrapped in sadness. I didn't answer. I just nodded, pretending to sleep. The next week, Dad asked if I'd made up my mind. I told him I was staying with Mom. He didn't fight me. He just stared at the floor and said, I get it. She needs you more than I do. He hugged me goodbye, and that was the last time I saw him for almost a year. At first, things with Mom were peaceful, almost too peaceful. She cooked my favorite meals, let me skip chores, and smiled constantly, like she was trying to prove something. But little by little, things changed. Whenever Dad called, she'd go quiet. If I mentioned him, her face would tighten, and she'd say something like, he only cares now because he lost. Eventually, I stopped bringing him up at all. On my 16th birthday, Dad sent me a letter, handwritten, full of apologies, saying he missed me and wanted to rebuild things. I hid it under my pillow. Mom found it a few days later while cleaning my room. She tore it in half right in front of me. You don't need his lies, she said coldly. That night, I cried harder than I ever had before. It wasn't just about the letter. It was the realization that both of them had turned my love into a competition. By 17, I started to pull away from Mom. I spent more time outside, stayed at friends' houses, avoided her constant emotional traps. When I told her I wanted to go to college out of state, she broke down. After everything I've done for you, you're leaving me too. I remember whispering, I just want to live my own life. Years later, after I'd moved out, I found out something that made me sick. They had never even finalized the divorce. The separation had been part of a twisted game, a way to manipulate each other through me. When I confronted Mom, she didn't deny it. She just looked at me with tired eyes and said, we were trying to do what was best for you, but it wasn't for me. It was for them. Their pride, their anger, their need to win. Now as an adult, I've rebuilt some contact with my dad, but it's never been the same. There's always this unspoken guilt, like no matter what I say, I'm betraying someone. The most messed up thing my parents ever did wasn't yelling or fighting or even separating. It was teaching me that love could be used as a weapon, and that no matter how hard I tried, someone I loved would always end up hurt. And that lesson, I'm still unlearning.